be held in the CARICOM Pavilion, but we've just moved next door. So thank you for accommodating us. This morning's session is on scaling up renewable energy investment in the Caribbean region, particularly on the 100 megawatt auction in Jamaica, the RELP-CDB-CCSA collaboration to support more governments. And it's really an innovative partnership, and it's really exciting for the conversations and discussions that we're going to have today. We have about 40 minutes to complete the session in total. I'm going to first of all just give a brief introduction of who we have on the esteemed panel this morning and give them about 2 minutes to introduce themselves as well. So first of all, we have the RELP representative, Ramiro Barinaga. Barinaga. Thank you. The Director of Finance Design Strategy at RELP. We also have from the CDB, the Caribbean Development Bank, Joseph Williams, Head of Renewable Energy at CDB. And we also have on the panel today, Roderick Gordon, Legal Advisor for a Generation Procurement Entity in Jamaica.
Yes.
All right, and I'm Dr. Mohammad Nagdee, Head of the Nature, Climate and Energy Program at the United Nations Development Program for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. So I'm going to pass it on now to Ramiro. Please, 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, Mohammad. I'm Ramiro Gómez Barinaga. I'm Director of Strategy Design at McGrath, RELP. We are a non-profit organization based in Brussels, and we are independently funded by philanthropy. So we support countries in the developing world to design and implement renewable tenders. And the idea is to support the countries to deploy renewables at lower prices, so the energy transition is a just energy transition, as we have learned from the Caribbean Development Bank president, that it has to be a proportionate benefits for developing countries when you go green in the energy transition. So now this panel goes over because we're working with Jamaica, the GPE, the Generation Procurement Entity. We are assisting them in designing and implementing the new tenders. It's already launched the 100 megawatt tender, and we are also initiating a collaboration with CDB for program-based guarantees for the region. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ramiro. Let me also now pass it over to Joseph Williams from the CDB to introduce himself.
Sure, morning, thanks. My name is Joseph Williams, Coordinator Sustainable Energy at CDB. And the bank has been significantly focused on promoting sustainable energy as an important part of strategy, given the importance of energy, not just in terms of the climate challenge, but also for energy security objectives and potential for economic transformation. So we're happy to collaborate with, on this initiative as we see there's a significant gap in the frameworks for countries, and this could be a useful instrument. So I can speak some more about it later. Thanks much.
Thank you so much. And last but definitely not least, Roderick. Legal Advisor, Jamaica Generation Procurement Entity, please.
Yes. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. The climate initiative and the challenges we face are significant. Jamaica has done its best to be a leader in the space, and we have already implemented a number of renewable energy projects, wind farms in Jamaica as well as solar farms. We have the largest wind farm in the English-speaking Caribbean already. We now have to accelerate what we need to do to bring more renewable onto our national grid. The commitment of the government of Jamaica is to go to 50% renewable generation by 2030. It's very ambitious. And so the Generation Procurement Entity is the entity which is responsible for all new procurement of generation in the country. It published its first RFP under this new Electricity Act, and it is for 100 megawatts. It is a technology-neutral RFP, and we have RELP as a transaction advisor working with the GPE. I am the legal advisor to the GPE, so I'm part of the working group. We have worked countless hours with RELP, and we are in the process now of the first procurement. It should be the first of 2 procurements, the first one for 100 megawatts and the second for 168 megawatts. And so, we're very grateful to have RELP with their expertise and with this fascinating new initiative that Ramiro is going to tell us more about this morning.
Thank you so much, Roderick. I really appreciate that. I think that with the level of ambition that's being shown here, I think what you mentioned about working hard and days without sleep kind of goes hand in hand. So it really is ambitious in terms of Jamaica being able to move towards 50% renewable energy by 2030 with route support and also the partnership with the Caribbean Development Bank, and I also see here the CCSA. But let me pass it over right now to Ramiro to tell us a bit more about RELP, what it is that you're doing, and how you guys are also seeking to not only help Jamaica but potentially help the Caribbean as well. Please. Over to you.
Okay. As I told you before, we are NGO independently funded, so we have no conflict of interest of any kind to, give support to the countries. We do that on a pro bono basis. We don't charge to the developing countries for our technical assistance, as we are funded by philanthropy. We have an international track record. We were the team that designed the Renewable program in Argentina that has deployed 178 projects already in 5 years. We came from 0.8 of renewable energy to the range of 30% in just 5 years. 5 gigawatts deployed, 8 billion of investment, and I will tell you in a bit how was the program designed and what we are trying to assist different developing countries to lower the price of the energy and also implementing renewables. This is our executive team, and this is our board of advisors. It's well-recognized international people that give us support not only in the networking, but also giving us access to, developing countries and to MDIs, FDIs, and banks, because we are trying to bridge that gap between the needs of developing countries and the risk that we found there to the financing gap that is not going to deploy renewables. This is our donors and partners. And this is our operations. As you see, we're working in Jamaica, actually, and Pakistan. We have program. We are a very new organization. We were born in pandemia, so we have presence now in Jamaica, in Pakistan, in South Africa, and the Philippines. We are about 50 people worldwide, and we need to keep growing to assist more developing countries. Now, I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Roderick to tell a little bit about our Jamaica experience together.
In Jamaica, we, in 2015, passed a new Electricity Act. And that act gave different responsibilities to different players in the energy space in Jamaica. So we previously had the Ministry of Energy, which we still do, but we also had the Office of Utilities Regulation. The Electricity Act in 2015 created a new body, which is called the Generation Procurement Entity. That entity is responsible for the procurement of all new generation on the island, apart from the national utility, which has what's called a right of first refusal. And so what the GPE has started is in early 2023, it issued an expression of interest, asking for potential projects and interested parties to submit what they were looking to do in Jamaica in the renewable space. We received a number of proposals totaling over 2,600 megawatts of potential renewable projects. And so this now informed the first RFP because we have what is called our Integrated Resource Plan that is delivered by the Ministry of Energy, and that informs the procurement process. And so the IRP 2020 indicated we should go to market for 268 megawatts of renewable energy. The GPE is going to market in 2 tranches. The first for 100 megawatts, which was published earlier this year, and the second will be for 168 megawatts. In looking at its process and how it would deliver a successful procurement, the GPE was introduced to the work of RELP through the IDB. And the offer by RELP was really tremendous because apart from the expertise that they are bringing to the table, they were able to offer a significant amount of services at no cost to the Jamaican government. In the developing world, this is almost too good to be true. But when you look at their model, it is actually an excellent model. And so the government of Jamaica signed a cooperation agreement with RELP for RELP to be the transaction advisors to the generation procurement entity and to help with the auction design and to also improve other features of the operation of the GPE so that the process would be as efficient and as smooth as possible. We have published our RFP and it is currently in the market, the first one for 100 megawatts. The draft PPA has also been published about 3 weeks ago. And so we are now in the clarification process. And we then expect to have the bids lodged with the GPE in late February of 2024.
Thank you, Roderick. That was maybe another, here are some features or the RFP already published in the website of the GPE, which of course it's very, very clear. All documents are posted there. And it is, as Roderick said, a 100 megawatt tender. It's technology neutral. Payments will be, it's dollar linked, but payments will be in Jamaican dollars. You have minimum projects and a maximum of 50 megawatt, not only for project, but also for bidder, you know, to increment to increment competition. It's a 20-year-long PPA. It's secured creditors included in the PPA. So this is a feature that will allow banks to be more comfortable in assisting and financing those projects. And the submission date would be February 1st, 2024, right?
If I could just add, Ramiro, because you made a very important point, which is that the question of the international lenders and looking at how they are protected in the features of the auction. So in addition to indicating in the RFP that there would be features for secured lenders' rights, working with RELP, we have actually improved the protection for creditors in the PPA. And we have also had our discussions with the Ministry of Energy so that there will be some features in the license as well. Now, this really helps, and with RELP's guidance, what we are understanding is that this will bring down the cost of money that will come into the auction, in addition to which is just putting more international comfort in terms of international financiers coming into this Jamaican market. So we have already had pretty successful projects, but this now accelerates our ability to attract a lower cost of financing for potential projects. The other feature which is very good is that there is a cap on the size of project that you can be awarded through this first RFP. So even though we're looking for 100 megawatts, in discussion and collaboration with RELP, the GPE agreed to fix the maximum size at 50 megawatt. So that will not only encourage smaller developers to seek to put projects in the tender, but it also will ensure that there is enough competition. So you won't have maybe an incumbent now who already has an economy of scale who simply says, well, I'm going to increase my existing plant by 100 megawatts. And so we were very grateful and interested in that feature because based on the EOI, there are several potential bidders and a lot of new bidders from as far as Mauritius and as close as Cayman Islands in terms of companies and startups that indicated an expression of interest.
Thanks, Roderick. And I just wanted to extract one particular component of what you said. I mean, a lot of information here to digest, but you mentioned too good to be true.
Yes.
And when we're saying too good to be true, I think it's more along the line of responsible investment and responsible partners. So I think it's a really good opportunity then to segue down to my colleague Joseph at the Caribbean Development Bank to tell us a bit more about how this initiative can potentially reduce maybe the financing or being able to reduce the energy outputs or costs at the end in terms of this partnership between the government of Jamaica, RELP, and the Caribbean Development Bank. So over to you, Joseph.
Sure. Thank you so much. So thanks to the contribution, and Roderick, very, very helpful in terms of, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of the information there. So the way I'd want to comment on this is that we have identified the matter of the regulatory framework, which includes the procurement issue as a significant area of risk and even a barrier for most of the countries in terms of scaling up renewable energy in the region. And so, as a matter of fact, we just published, or recently published and launched yesterday officially, what we call a minimum regulatory function, which really is a set of elements we think that if countries could implement, would provide basic framework that could give investors confidence, private investors in the space. And one element of that has to do with the procurement, as also to do with the risks associated with the PPA. In other words, if the utility is not in a position to honor the PPA, it presents a risk to the overall transaction. All right. So the idea is to encourage the countries, the governments, to at least have some basic things in place. They can always expand, they can do all the things that's necessary to take them to the next level, but at least have the basics and that. So this element is an important part of it. But it's also important because of what we have observed around the region over time. So you have a situation where in some countries you have unsolicited proposal, bilateral arrangements, and it robs the process of answering the value for money proposition. Besides, there are other risks that are involved, right? So what is being done here is not just a question of a case where it is relevant to Jamaica. The approach is something we are promoting as a strategy to help to give confidence and scale up the renewable energy around the region. Certainly in terms of the model we are promoting, there is the element that has to do with improving the situation as far as the credit risk is concerned for the utilities. And I think within the context of RELP's offering, there is some opportunity there to help with that aspect. So it's one about ensuring that we have a robust procurement system, which will help to answer the value for money, which will translate to lower cost of bids because you have better confidence that you don't have to price those risks into the bids. And it's also about bringing instruments to fill a gap in the market, because the fact is that some of the utilities are not as strong as we would have wanted in terms of their financial and technical position. So to the extent that we can have instruments that can help to improve their credit position, it will help to facilitate the transaction to a greater extent. So all in all, we see some very good alignment and synergies in terms of what RELP is bringing to the table and the objectives we are trying to fulfill or promote around the region. And in that context, we have signaled that we want to see how we can pursue a partnership. We're still at the stage of discussion where the formalities have been completed, but what is very clear is that we have done due diligence on the operation and so on, and we have comfort that RELP is an entity we would be comfortable to engage in with to see how we can leverage some of the expertise, the experience globally to benefit the region in this quest for scaling up renewable energy. So for us, it's a win. It's really a very good prospect. And the case that is being pursued in Jamaica provides, I think, good experience for us to learn and to see how we can replicate. You know, so I think we welcome the initiative, and we commend government of Jamaica also for pursuing an approach that will allow for a more robust procurement and hence hopefully better prices as a result. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Joseph. Really appreciate that. One thing to mention is always about programmatically de-risking investment or programmatically de-risking finance. This is really the name of the game. I'm going to be speaking briefly on Friday on green procurement as well at the Antigua and Barbuda Pavilion. Yeah. But obviously within the context of us as islands, it really magnifies the complexity when we're talking about procurement, and especially when we have to de-risk. So I'm going to pass it back over to Ramiro. So we have a slide here on RELP plus the iTrust in terms of the risk and the vicious circle of non-bankability. Maybe I can ask you to tell us a bit about it.
Thank you, Mohammad. Well, there is something that Joseph mentioned that I missed before, which is the bilateral negotiations between the projects and the government. And one of the features that we've discussed and included in the Jamaican tender is that there should be no post-award negotiations up to the main issues and main features of the contract. Otherwise, this, I'm not saying that it's not transparent, but it could be seemed and not transparent. And what we are trying to get in this tender is the perception that it is a competitive tender, and it's very, very transparent. So local, domestic, and international investors are comfortable going to Jamaica, because also sometimes you discuss with different stakeholders and they don't see themselves as risky, but in other ways they are perceived as one. So maybe you have to tackle those issues that maybe they are not, and they have data to show that they are not risky, but the prices they may be paying is effectively shown that they are perceived as risky. So when we offer this technical assistance, besides the design and implementation of the tenders, we are trying to destroy this non-bankability circle by giving more transparency, bankability features. And what is iTrust? iTrust is a fund, an innovative financial structure that is built to give program-based guarantees to all IPPs awarded in a tender. So we have what they say, the magic sauce of this is that these two guarantees, a revolving energy payment guarantee, which is a liquidity guarantee to cover off-taker delays, all projects and even their financiers want to get paid on time. And sometimes state-owned entities acting as single buyers in the tenders are delayed in payment. So this is a buffer, a backup to cover those delays and give working capital to the projects. And then iTrust would recover that from the off-taker along with interest, delay interest from the PPA. So that is an evergreen liquidity guarantee over the 20 years, because it never gets exhausted, because when it kicks in, it pays and then recovers from the off-taker. This will be funded with 3, 6, or 12 months of payments to all IPPs. I need to mention that this guarantee is designed to be provided for free to all IPPs awarded in the tender. And how is that possible? Because that would be too good to be true. And what we are asking is that the host country fund 15% of the money allocated in that account. And then we would get funding from philanthropy, donor countries, and lenders, which, when that money is drawn, they will be paid with interest from the PPA. We've been asked in several discussions that is it a requisite that the host country funds that, and in design it is, because we need to avoid moral hazard of the host government or the off-taker using that buffer of money for free with no consequences. So that's a design feature. And the other guarantee we have is the early termination payment guarantee. We have two kinds of risks that are the liquidity one and the early termination payment. What happens if you are licensed or awarded with a PPA, and then you make the investment, you get the financing from commercial lenders, and then your PPA is terminated. And then you have the assets in a country that you will not recover them, and you will not recover the funds to repay your debt. So in that case, we are proposing is to have this I-Trust structure to act as a ranger of guarantees given by MIGA, the CDB, the World Bank, and other DFIs to channel them into the projects, because the guarantees are already sitting there. And we think that the problem is that they are granted after the tender process. So they are not priced in. So the projects get high prices, then project by project get the de-risking, but the price is not being lowered. So renewable energy is perceived as expensive when it could be not. So the idea is to embed all the requirements within the auction, so all projects know that these guarantees will be provided to them if they ask. This guarantee is not for free, and it's optional, and they will have to pay the fees to the MDB or DFI providing that guarantee. And I-Trust is planning to tender that service in different regions. So the idea is to have pass-through costs as low as possible to the projects. So
May I ask Ramiro?
Yeah.
On the second facility that you just described, who would be purchasing it? Is it the IPP or is it the single buyer?
No, the IPP will be the single buyer would, and let's say GPE, would embed all that in the auction.
I see.
So the IPPs, when they bid, they know that if they ask for it, and they will know the costs, how much they will lower their financing costs by having those guarantees. So you will have more competition, you will have lower prices, and the country and the people will have the benefit of that de-risking. Otherwise, it's just the project, because there would be high prices, and then they will get the de-risking. So that's the whole idea. And this is what we've done. We've done this pilot with the World Bank in Argentina with a 800 million guarantee, and we deployed 8 billion. So that's, and we, just to give you some figures, we went to the range, from the range of $300 per megawatt hour to the range of $50 per megawatt hour in 6 months. So that was a huge, huge savings for the country. Thank you.
Thanks, Ramiro. Really appreciate it. And again, it's about de-risking, I think, is at the heart of any energy investment that we need to effectively prioritize. And with the partnerships and the transparency in terms of the procurement processes, all of this really goes hand in hand. So we only have a few minutes left. I'm going to open it up to the crowd to see if we have any particular questions. I suspect we may not have any questions. I thought that it was a very comprehensive discussion this morning. But if there are not any particular questions, I'm going to give everyone just a couple of minutes to wrap it up. And particularly the CDB, I'm also interested on this question. Well, for all three partners, how do you see this model being replicated or even being expanded to other islands in the region? I think that's the replicability and the scalability is very important. Jamaica being one of our largest sister islands, how do you see this replicability in the smallest developing states? Be interesting to get your thoughts, and then we can wrap up the session.
Sure. Well, I could probably start, Mohammad. Thanks. So we have developed a strategy we call Accelerated Sustainable Energy and Resilience Transition 2030, for short, ASSERT 2030. And the idea there is that the transition is not happening fast enough, or as a matter of fact, it's extremely slow relative to the targets and commitments that the governments have made for themselves. And so the focus is really on targeting the big barriers, obstacles, challenges, and developing transformative intervention to overcome them. And these intervention for ease of reference, we have called assertives, because we want to make the point that it's not business as usual if we're really going to get there. And in that context, the whole question of de-risking and ensuring that we really get to the heart of some of the obstacles that are impacting private investor confidence are addressed. And so this is a big component of that because it has many features. It's about ensuring that procurement process, having confidence, but also ensuring that it runs smoothly and you get the uptake and response from the market. But ultimately, it's about the cost of the energy or the output to the end users. And I think to the extent that we can help to lower that, then we are achieving to a greater extent the objective of affordability and the energy security objective, beyond even just the climate objective, which is obviously very important, but for us, energy security still remains a big issue. So that is relevant to virtually all the CARICOM countries, all the CDB member countries. And to that extent, we consider that this opportunity is very important, and we'll want to see how we can collaborate and help to make that available to the rest of the members. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Roderick and then Ramiro.
Thank you, Mohammad. I want to close with a couple of thoughts. And earlier I spoke about potentially it sounded almost too good to be true. The last time we were invited by our friends from Argentina to join them, their team playing our team, we lost 5-0 at the 1998 World Cup. And so when we heard about RELP, we were a little nervous. But what I can tell you is when they made their presentation with the experience that certainly I have had in the last 8 years working in this field, their detail and what they were focusing on demonstrated that they had thought this through carefully. And what we are appreciative of is that we are partnering with leaders. And it is really heartwarming to hear the efforts of the CDB. Joseph and I met and spoke at a conference earlier this year, the Caribbean Renewable Energy Conference, and I heard about what they were doing. And I said, Joseph, I'm looking out. And so it's fantastic to hear today not only the ASSERT initiative, but also that they are speaking with RELP and that they have validated that these products that RELP are bringing forward are products that can work in the Caribbean, work globally. And so we look forward to continuing the partnership, watching and helping where we can with the CDB, because the barriers are real. And in our small states, the process to overcome those barriers are individual. A lot are shared, but a lot are also individual. Some of the utilities, some of them still owned by the government. There may not currently be a regulator and so on. So we also have to look individually at how we address those issues. But the experience that RELP has brought to the table and what we are now doing in Jamaica can serve as a model, and doing this at the same time and hand in hand with the CDB. So we are excited. We stand ready to help, and we look forward to some really accelerated progress in achieving our essential goals.
Yep.
Thanks, Roderick. I'm happy that you referenced Jamaica versus Argentina, not the West Indies cricket team. But I'll pass it over to Ramiro to wrap it up, but then I'll wrap up the session.
Thank you, Mohammad. Well, thank you, Roderick, for your words. And I think that with the work being done in Jamaica, that will be transformative, and hope that it has an impact on the region. And this practical collaboration with CDB, we are setting up the fund, and we will have sub-funds, regional funds, and we will ask the MDBs of each region to fund the guarantee accounts, to assist, because at the end, we understand that MDBs are the final risk takers of their own region. So this will be blended finance, because will be country supporting the guarantee accounts, will be MDB, DFIs, and finally private investors. But the collaboration and the design of regional guarantees, because in somehow small markets, the island markets, may not be enough to design one guarantee for each one, but you can have an umbrella guarantee for the region, and whenever you do a tender in certain country, you can offer them to the IPPs.
Sure.
So that is that is the approach, and thank you, Joseph, for all your support.
Sure. So just one closing. Time is out, but just to say that we have signaled that this is we think is a good area for support, and that we're willing to explore. Right? We are still at the stage of exploring how we move the process through. So we have not gotten to the stage of formalizing any of this collaboration. Sorry, but certainly it's fully aligned, and there's a gap that is to be filled, and we think that this could be an important way of filling that gap. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks, Joseph. So just to wrap it up quickly into 3 quick points. It's about partnerships and collaboration. It's about de-risking. And it's also about impact. And I think the impact in this case is about reducing the cost of energy at the user end. And this partnership and this project in itself with RELP, I think really encapsulates all 3 of these particular components. It'll be exciting to see how this goes forward in Jamaica and the possibility of replicability throughout the Caribbean region. So thank you to my colleagues. A round of applause. And it was a pleasure being here today.
Thank you.